Lesson 29. Let's begin with our first word, Braille. A useful phrase to remember is read in Braille. Braille is a special system of writing used by people who are blind. Instead of letters, it uses raised dots that can be felt with the fingers. A person who cannot see can learn to read in Braille by touching the dots and understanding the patterns. The phrase read in Braille is used when talking about books, signs, or labels that are written in this special way to help blind people read. Now, let's look at debt. A helpful phrase for this word is pay back the debt. A debt is money that someone owes and must repay. If you borrow money from a bank to buy a house, you have a debt that you need to pay back over time. If a friend lends you money for lunch, you should pay back the debt when you can. The phrase pay back the debt is often used when talking about financial responsibilities, loans, or money that needs to be returned. Next, we have eavesdrop. A good phrase to remember is eavesdrop on the phone conversation. To eavesdrop means to secretly listen to someone else's conversation without permission. If two people are talking in a quiet room, someone hiding behind the door might eavesdrop on their conversation. It is considered rude and sneaky to eavesdrop. The phrase eavesdrop on the phone conversation is used when someone secretly listens to a phone call without being part of the conversation. Let's move on to generous. An example phrase is generous donation. A generous person gives freely and happily without expecting anything in return. A generous person might donate money to charity or share food with friends. If someone gives a large amount of money to help a school or hospital, we call it a generous donation. The phrase generous donation is often used when talking about people who give a lot to help others. Now, let's talk about interrupt. A useful phrase is don't interrupt me. To interrupt means to stop someone while they are talking or doing something. If two people are having a conversation and someone suddenly speaks in the middle, they interrupt. A teacher might say, "Don't interrupt me," if a student speaks while they are giving instructions. The phrase "don't interrupt me" is used when someone wants to finish speaking without being stopped. Next, we have mischievous. A great phrase for this word is mischievous child. A mischievous person likes to play tricks and cause small amounts of trouble, usually in a playful way. A mischievous child might hide their friend's backpack as a joke or sneak a cookie before dinner. Sometimes mischievous actions can be funny, but they can also annoy others. The phrase mischievous child describes a kid who enjoys playing pranks and causing harmless trouble. Let's move on to previous. An important phrase to remember is previous lesson. If something is previous, it happened before the current time. If today is Wednesday, the previous day was Tuesday. If you are on lesson 29 now, the previous lesson was lesson 28. The phrase previous lesson is used when talking about something that was learned or done earlier. Now, let's discuss resemble. A phrase to associate with this word is, he resembles my brother. To resemble means to look like or be similar to someone or something. If two people have the same eyes and smile, they might resemble each other. A small kitten might resemble a lion because they have similar shapes. The phrase, he resembles my brother, is used when talking about someone who looks or acts like a brother but is not actually related. Next, we have symbol. A useful phrase is symbol of peace. A symbol is something that represents or stands for something else. A heart is a symbol of love, and a dove is a symbol of peace. In math, the plus sign, plus, is a symbol for addition. The phrase symbol of peace is used when talking about something, like a white dove or an olive branch, that represents peace and harmony. Finally, let's talk about widespread. A helpful phrase is widespread disease. If something is widespread, it exists in many places or affects many people. If a new technology becomes popular all over the world, it is widespread. If a disease spreads quickly from one country to another, it is called a widespread disease. The phrase widespread disease is often used when talking about illnesses that affect large groups of people, like the flu or a global pandemic. That's the end of lesson 29. Keep practicing these words and phrases to build your vocabulary and confidence.